Today I have a video about Jesus drying up the Red Sea, and this has to do with discerning the works of Jesus in the aspect that he's a prophet like Moses, and the works that Moses did, he also does. So Jesus, a prophet like Moses, here's Luke 24, where they refer to Jesus, he's a prophet mighty in deed and in word in the sight of God and all the people. And then later in Acts 7 with Stephen's sermon, when it's talking about Moses, how Moses was a man of power in words and deeds. This Moses whom they disowned, saying, "Who made you a ruler and a judge?" is the one whom God sent to be both a ruler and a deliverer with the help of the angel who appeared to him in the thorn bush. This man led them out, performing wonders and signs in the land of Egypt, and in the Red Sea, and in the wilderness for 40 years. This is the Moses who said to the sons of Israel, "God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your brethren." So Moses, when he led the people out of Egypt, God performed many wonders and signs through him in the land of Egypt, in the Red Sea, and in the wilderness. And all of these point forward to the future prophet, Jesus. This is the Moses who said to the sons of Israel, "God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your brethren." So not exactly like Moses, but like Moses. And the signs that Moses did, this prophet will perform the same signs, similar signs, that testify that he is, that God is with him, and that he's the future prophet that everyone was waiting in anticipation for. So the main sign that I want to talk about with this work is how drying up the Red Sea, how Moses performed that work, how God did that work through him, and how that's a sign with Jesus, with this work, that he's the prophet like Moses, because he's doing the same signs that Moses did. So Luke 8, this is the woman who had the hemorrhage, and a woman who had a hemorrhage for 12 years and could not be healed by anyone, came up behind him and took the fringe of his cloak, saying, and touched the fringe of his cloak, and immediately her hemorrhage stopped. Jesus said, "Someone did touch me, for I was aware that power had gone out of me." When the woman saw that she had not escaped notice, she came trembling and fell down before him and declared in the presence of all the people the reason why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." And this account is in 3 of the Gospels. And I think it's included because they all see it as a sign that Jesus was the prophet of God that's like Moses. Matthew's account, it's the shortest one, Matthew 9. And a woman who had been suffering from a hemorrhage for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak, for she was saying to herself, "If I only touch his garment, I will get well." But Jesus, turning and seeing her, said, "Daughter, take courage. Your faith has made you well." At once the woman was made well. And Mark's account is my favorite, the detail that he has. A woman who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years and had endured much at the hands of many physicians and had spent all that she had and was not helped at all, but rather had grown worse. It's interesting. It's like the suffering that she was experiencing wasn't primarily from her hemorrhage, but it's what she endured at the hands of many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was not helped at all, but rather had grown worse. After hearing about Jesus, she came up in the crowd behind him and touched his cloak, for she thought, "If I just touch his garments, I will get well." Immediately, the flow of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. Immediately, Jesus, perceiving in himself that power proceeding from him had gone forth, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my garments?" But the woman, fearing and trembling, aware of what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." And it's interesting that Mark calls it an affliction as opposed to like a disease or an illness. So here, the way that Mark describes it, it's not just that her hemorrhage stopped, it's that the flow of her blood was dried up. And it's the same language that's used to describe the Red Sea and Moses's sign in the Red Sea, that it was dried up. Here, Psalm 106. We have sinned like our fathers. Our fathers in Egypt did not understand your wonders. They did not remember your abundant kindnesses, but rebelled by the sea at the Red Sea. Nevertheless, he saved them for the sake of his name, that he might make his power known. Thus he rebuked the Red Sea, and it dried up. And he led them through the deeps as through the wilderness. He saved them from the hand of the one who hated them, and redeemed them from the hand of the enemy. The waters covered their adversaries, not one of them was left. Then they believed his words. They sang his praise. So it's like here it's talking about Moses and the Lord doing that work at the Red Sea. But also with Jesus, when he performs this sign, it's like the people who have the spiritual discernment and they're able to recognize that sign as being an imitation of what Moses did in the Red Sea. It's like once they saw the sign, then they believe his words. It's like they know that he's the prophet sent from God, mighty in word and deed. When he rebukes the Red Sea and it dries up, then they believed his words. So the first instance, it's about, God working through Moses, and then God working in Jesus, in works and in his words. And here, Exodus 15, talking about the same account, Pharaoh's chariots and his army he cast into the sea. The choicest of his officers are drowned in the Red Sea. The deeps cover them. They went down to the depths. Your right hand, O Lord, is majestic in power. Your right hand, O Lord, shatters the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellence, you overthrow those who rise up against you. You send forth your burning anger, and it consumes them as chaff. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters were piled up. The flowing waters stood up like a heap. The deeps were congealed in the heart of the sea. So I think it's interesting how here the deeps were congealed in the heart of the sea. It's like that same language, like when blood dries up, when it clogs, when it heals, it's congealed. Congealed in the heart of the sea. The heart, that organ that is responsible for pumping blood throughout your body, keeping it alive. So I think that's interesting. In Exodus 15, when it describes that work that God did through Moses, it's described as the deeps being congealed in the heart of the sea and drying up the Red Sea. And that's how Mark talks about it. Immediately the flow of her blood was dried up. He sees this as a work, as a sign that Moses did. He sees Jesus performing that sign. Moses dried up the Red Sea. This is Jesus drying up the Red Sea. The flow of her blood was dried up. He recognizes the sign and perceives that Jesus is the prophet sent from God. And this healing is different than other healings. It's not just like a cleansing, but like after healing her, he calls her daughter. I think like with all of the healings that Jesus performs, it's like friend. He uses different terms, but this is like the only instance where he uses a term that's like familial. In the title, daughter, I think he uses son one time in Mark. And he uses daughter of Abraham in Luke. But he uses daughter because I think this healing is different than all the other healings that he performed. She's a descendant of Jesus, being born of the Spirit. Like, she's an offspring of him. She's a daughter of God. She's a daughter of Zion. He calls her daughter because she's born of the Spirit. The power, it's described, power proceeding from him had gone forth. It's like she's a scepter. The Spirit, he was anointed with power by the Spirit. And this power proceeded from him and had gone forth into her. So that power was transferred. She was born of the Spirit. So he sees her as a spiritual daughter, being born of the Spirit. And she has all of the fruits of the Spirit. Like, she fell down before him and told him the whole truth. Those who are born of the Spirit speak of what we know and testify of what we have seen. And she doesn't have like a fear of man. She declared in the presence of all the people the reason why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. So it's like, yeah, he calls her daughter because she's born of the Spirit. And it's like the power didn't just heal her, like physical suffering, the hemorrhage, the physical blood, bleeding out from her. It healed her whole mind, heart, spirit, affliction, spiritual affliction, physical affliction. I think she received the Spirit in full measure that was able to heal her of her physical sufferings, her hemorrhage, and any other fears that she had, like fear of man, fear of penalty, fear of consequences. She was able to fall down before him and tell him the whole truth and declare in the presence of all the people the reason why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. So you see like other fruits of the Spirit in her, other than just being healed from her physical affliction. Also, I like how he calls her daughter, and it's in the middle of Jairus' daughter being resurrected, how he came to Jesus and, his daughter was at the point of death and he had asked Jesus to come lay hands on her so that she would be made well. And Jairus' daughter was also 12 years old at the time, and the woman had the affliction for 12 years. So I like that literary structure with the connection to Jairus' daughter and her being healed. So she declared in the presence of all the people the reason why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And then after that, people are imitating her works. Here in Mark 6, wherever he entered villages or cities or countryside, they were laying the sick in the marketplaces and imploring him that they might just touch the fringe of his cloak, and as many as touched it were being cured. So it's like this woman was able to lay hold of Jesus and cure her affliction, and then other people, after hearing her thoughts and the reason why she touched his cloak and how she was immediately healed, it's like they want to imitate that work and be cured themselves. So they imitate her example. They might just touch the fringe of his cloak, and as many as touched it were being cured. Also, I like the Gospel of Mark because I think it shows a lot of connections between like people's physical, their physical sickness and what spiritual sickness they might also be suffering from. Like here in Mark 1, when it talks about the leper, the leper came to Jesus, beseeching him, "If you're willing, you can make me clean." Moved with compassion, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him and said, "I am willing, be cleansed." Immediately the leprosy left him and he was cleansed. And like leprosy, it was highly contagious, spread quickly. and made you unclean to society. You couldn't really interact with anyone or go near anyone. No one wanted to touch you because they didn't want that disease to be transferred. And then after cleansing him, he sternly warned him and immediately sent him away. And he said to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest, make the offering for the cleansing that Moses commanded as a testimony to them." But he went out and began to proclaim it freely and to spread the news around to such an extent that Jesus could no longer publicly enter a city. So this leper, he was cleansed, but it doesn't say he was healed. And I think sometimes I think God uses a physical ailment to keep someone from causing harm that their spiritual sicknesses cause. Like this man was probably a gossip, would share news around town, spread gossip, spread slander, speak evil of people. Because even when he received healing, Jesus warned him, see that you say nothing to anyone. Don't tell anyone. Keep this to yourself. Keep these words in your own mind and heart. Don't speak these words to anyone. But he's not able to follow that. He went out and began to proclaim it freely, and to spread the news around. So it's like spreading diseases, that's carried about through leprosy. But when he has this news about Jesus, and Jesus warns him not to say anything, it's like, well, he goes out and proclaims it freely and and spreads the news around. So now it's like this news about Jesus it's now like spread all throughout town as if it was leprosy. As quickly as disease can spread from one person to another, this man had proclaimed Jesus' healing and spread the news around. And it's like it spread quicker as if it was leprosy. It's like even when Paul talks about false teachers, it's like they spread like gangrene. I don't remember exactly what he says. But if this leprosy was a symptom of retributive justice to keep him out of society from being a gossip and spreading evil reports around, well, he was cleansed from his leprosy, but he wasn't cured. Like he still has that spiritual sickness inside himself to spread news around, even when he's told not to. So I think eventually his leprosy is going to come back, and that cleansing is only temporary. So yeah, but here you can see like the connection between someone's spiritual sickness and their physical sickness. Like this man has like a spiritual leprosy where he, speaks news, proclaims it freely, spreads it around town, good report, bad report, evil report. He's like wanting to spread like he can spread evil with his words or good with his words. It's evil because Jesus commanded him not to. It's like the same as if he was spreading that physical sickness. So it's like he was contagious with his words. And you also see that in his physical body, that he has a physical contagion that's highly contagious as well. But yeah, you see the connection with physical and spiritual. And like physicians, like with Luke, the beloved physician. I love reading Luke for a lot of different reasons, but you see the connection between like physical suffering and spiritual suffering. Like Luke, I would entrust my body and soul to someone like Luke in a heartbeat. Like he's someone who knows what he's doing. He has the spiritual discernment to know like what the problem is. It's not like he's just gonna let you lie down on his table and go operate on you or give you a treatment without knowing like the underlying cause. Like he's not about symptom management. He actually knows what's causing different issues. And like if you go read Luke and he talks about Jesus's works and the healings, it's like he's able to discern, okay, like Simon's mother, she was suffering from a fever. He rebuked the fever. In Luke 4, verse 40, while the sun was setting, all those who had any who were sick with various diseases brought them to him. So fevers, various diseases. Jesus even refers to himself as a physician. It's not those who are well who need a physician, but those who are sick. Jesus was a spiritual healer, a physical healer, and there's a connection with those two things. Luke 7, are you the expected one, or do we look for someone else? At that very time, he cured many people of diseases and afflictions and evil spirits. And he gave sight to many who were blind. So Luke is able to discern like all of these works, all of these cures that Jesus does. Is it a disease? Is it affliction? Is it an evil spirit? He has that discernment between the spirit and the body that like Luke wasn't even a witness of these things, but he went back and, investigated and put together this report. So even from hearing the testimonies of other people, he's able to discern, oh, these people had diseases, this was an affliction, this was an evil spirit, and he gave sight to many who were blind. Luke 9, okay, Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit and healed the boy. Luke 10, when he sends out the apostles, I've given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing will injure you. So it's like affliction brought on by evil spirits, by spiritual serpents and spiritual scorpions. How they injure people, the power of the enemy. Luke makes that connection. In Luke 13, the woman who for 18 years had had a sickness caused by a spirit, and she was bent double and could not straighten up at all. When Jesus saw her, he called her over and said to her, "Woman, you are freed from your sickness." So Luke's able to discern that this woman's sickness was caused by a spirit. Another healing, the man was suffering from dropsy. And in Acts, it happened that as we were going to the place of prayer, a slave girl having a spirit of divination met us. So he's very discerning between looking at a person's physical symptoms, and he's able to discern what's causing it. Is it a disease? Is it caused by a spirit? Is it a sickness? Is it a fever? Is it an unclean spirit? This girl has a spirit of divination. He's very discerning physically and spiritually with people. And, a lot of their physical sicknesses were caused by spirits. And Luke's able to perceive that as a physician himself. Yeah. Yeah. So that's all I had. But yeah, with that woman, she had a hemorrhage for 12 years, a flow of blood, a flow of red. It was a Red Sea. Came up and touched the fringe of his cloak, and immediately her hemorrhage stopped. Power had gone out of him. She declared in the presence of all how she had been immediately healed. And as Mark puts it, her thoughts had power, for she thought, if I just touch his garments, I will get well. Immediately the flow of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. And this was something that was perceived in both her and Jesus. She felt in her body she was healed of her affliction, and Jesus, perceiving in himself that power proceeding from him, had gone forth. So it was physically discerned, physically felt in her body, and also Jesus was able to perceive it. And yep, her flow of blood was dried up. He dried up the Red Sea, or I don't know if he dried up the Red Sea or if she dried up the Red Sea. I mean, she kind of brought it about due to her faith. Your faith has made you well. But it was through Jesus, just by touching his garments. But yeah, Mark sees this work. He sees it as a sign that he's doing, the works that Moses did. Jesus is doing those same works. Moses dried up the Red Sea. This is Jesus drying up the Red Sea. The flow of her blood was dried up, was congealed. And he saw this sign and believed in Jesus, believed in his words. And she's like a scepter. She felt in her body. She was healed of her affliction. Power proceeding from him had gone forth. Fell down before him and told him the whole truth. Like, that's the fruit of the Spirit. We speak truth. We speak of what we know and testify to what we have seen. It's impossible for God to lie. Told him the whole truth in the presence of all. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you find that interesting. I really like that woman. Me and my friend Jessie do. But yeah, it's Jesus performing the works of Noah as a sign in Egypt, in the Red Sea, and in the wilderness. He dried up the Red Sea. That was a sign for people who had the spiritual insight to recognize that and make the connection that he was a prophet like Moses, doing the works of Moses, but in a different sense. You just need the spiritual insight to recognize that. So I hope that's helpful. Okay.